The alien girl opened her eyes each morning to the same world. A world painted in gray, black and white, nothing ever changed. Not the sky, not the trees, not the clothes of her people. She had never seen the meaning of color. For her, the sun was just a pale circle. The grass was only dust, and the flowers were nothing more than shapes without life. Her name was Lyra, and she often sat near the village river, listening to the sound of water to calm her heart, while the other children of her kind ran and played. Speaking of colors they could see faintly, she stayed apart. To them, the world had some light shades, soft blue or weak green. But for Lyra there was nothing. Only dull shadows every day. Voices whispered behind her back. She is broken. She is useless, and she will never be chosen for work. The words dug deep inside her. Sometimes she smiled to hide her pain, but at night she pressed her face into her blanket and wished she could cry out the gray. She wanted to scream, but who would listen? Lyra's people valued strength. They believed every weakness was a shame. And sight, true sight, was a gift not everyone had. But most had more than her. Even the weakest among them could see pale colors. But she was cursed. No one expected her to change. Still, in her heart, a small flame burned. She wanted to know what red meant, what blue was, why others gasped at the sunset. She wanted to see what made flowers beautiful, why her people wore bright stones in their crowns. To her, beauty was only words, never truth. One evening, she walked through the market. Everyone shouted, selling fruit and cloth. She watched people holding fabrics to the light, arguing over shades she could not see. "This is brighter." One shouted, "No, this is deeper." Another replied, "Lyra only saw 2 gray pieces of cloth." Her chest tightened. She turned away. That night, she sat near the river again. The stars above were dots of white fire. Her grandmother used to say they had colors too, but Lyra never believed it. To her, stars were just cold dust in the sky. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I was born wrong. Maybe I will die without knowing." But whispers spread across the village that week. A human had arrived. Humans were rare visitors in this part of the galaxy. They came with strange machines and knowledge. Some people feared them, some mocked them, but others wondered at their skill. Lyra listened carefully. Her hands trembled when she heard someone say, "The human is an inventor. He builds things that no alien can understand." Her heart raced. Could he build something for her? Or was that only a dream? She gathered courage. She asked her neighbor, "Where is this human?" The neighbor frowned. "Why do you care? He will not help someone like you." But Lyra pressed on, "Please, just tell me." At last, the neighbor pointed toward the old workshop near the edge of the city. The next day, Lyra stood before that workshop. Her knees weak, the doors were heavy, and smoke rose from the chimney. Inside, she heard the sound of tools, metal against metal. Her breath caught in her throat. Should she enter? What if he laughed? What if he told her she was hopeless like everyone else? She stepped back, fear pulling her away. But then she remembered the children's laughter. The cruel voices, the endless gray, her fists clenched, she whispered, "If he cannot help me, then at least I tried." Slowly, she pushed open the door. The air smelled of oil and sparks. Strange shapes of glass and metal lay across the tables. A man stood there tall, his hands covered in black dust. He turned. His eyes met hers. For a moment, silence filled the room. Lyra froze like a frightened bird, but the human spoke softly. "You look lost." His voice was not mocking, not cruel. It was calm, almost gentle. Her lips trembled. I cannot see colors," she said. The words fell heavy. She had never admitted it aloud to a stranger. Her voice shook. "All my life I see only gray. They say I am broken, useless, but I want to know what colors are." The human studied her. His gaze did not carry pity, only thought. Slowly, he wiped his hands and said, "Maybe I can build something for you." Lyra's heart stopped, her eyes widened. "You can?" He gave a small smile. "I don't know yet, but I can try." For the first time in her life, Lyra felt the gray world tremble, like a door was about to open, and behind that door, perhaps, waited the colors of the universe. The human's workshop was quiet except for the faint hum of strange machines. Lyra stood frozen near the door, afraid she had already made a mistake. The human, whose name was Daniel, set down his tools and looked at her with calm, steady eyes, unlike her people. His gaze carried no judgment, no cruel laughter, only curiosity. "Tell me again," Daniel said gently. "You cannot see colors?" Lyra nodded, her fingers twisting nervously together. "Nothing. she whispered. The world is only shadows, everyone else can see at least a little, but for me, it is nothing. Gray walls, gray trees, gray skies. Daniel leaned forward, studying her face. And you want to see? Her voice cracked. I want to know what others speak of. I want to see what makes them smile. I want to understand what beauty means. She lowered her head, afraid of sounding foolish. I know it is impossible, but I had to try. Daniel was silent for a moment, his eyes drifting to the shelves filled with glass pieces, metal rings, and glowing crystals. His mind worked like a storm, she could almost hear it. Finally, he said, It is not impossible, only difficult. Lyra's heart pounded. His words were like a small flame in the endless dark. Still, fear clung to her. Everyone says I am broken, she whispered. They say nothing can fix me. Daniel smiled faintly. Humans hear the same words too, and many times. We prove them wrong. His confidence startled her. She had expected him to dismiss her like everyone else. Instead, he spoke as if failure was only a challenge. Not the end. He pulled out a piece of clear glass. Lifting it to the light, the edges glimmered faintly. This, he explained, bends light. Humans have built lenses for centuries. We use them to see stars, to heal eyes, to bring clarity. His gaze flicked back to her. Maybe we can bend light in a way your eyes understand. Lyra's throat went dry. She stepped closer, her feet trembling. You would do this for me? Daniel shrugged lightly. For anyone, if there is a way to help, why not? The words struck her heart. She had never heard kindness spoken so simply. In her world, kindness always carried weight, cost or mockery, but this human said it as if it was natural. He gestured to a chair. Sit. Lyra obeyed, her body stiff. She watched as Daniel pulled strange instruments from his shelves. A thin metal frame, glowing shards, wires like veins of silver. His hands moved with certainty. He worked like a man who had built 1,000 things, yet still searched for something greater. As he worked, he spoke. You said you cannot see any color, but do you see brightness? Do you know when something glows or shines? Yes, Lyra whispered. I can tell when light is strong or weak, but that is all. Good, Daniel said, nodding. Then we have a start. Hours passed. His workshop filled with sparks. The hum of machines mixed with the steady sound of his tools. Lyra sat quietly, her eyes following every movement. Sometimes he muttered to himself, words she did not understand, refraction, frequency shift, or color split. To her, they were like songs of another world. Finally, Daniel turned, holding a rough frame of metal and crystal. This is only a test, he warned. It may not work, but it is the first step. Her hand shook as she took it. The frame was heavy, the crystals cold. She lifted it toward her face, fear and hope clashing in her chest. When she put it on, the world flickered. A faint pulse of light, a shimmer at the edge of her vision. Her breath caught. Was it real? Did she see something? But then nothing. The gray returned, dull and empty, her chest caved in. It doesn't work, she whispered. Her voice broke like glass. Daniel did not look angry, only thoughtful. It was only the first, he said calmly. We will adjust, try again. Lyra blinked, confused. You are not giving up? Of course not, Daniel replied. Failure teaches. Success comes after. Her eyes filled with tears. Not of joy, but of disbelief, all her life. One failure had been enough for people to walk away from her. Yet this human spoke as if failure was nothing but a step forward. That night, as she left the workshop, her heart was heavy with disappointment, but also strange warmth. For the first time, someone had not turned away. The gray world still surrounded her, but deep inside a quiet voice whispered, maybe tomorrow will be different. The next morning, Lyra walked back to the human's workshop. Her steps were slow, her heart heavy. The first trial had failed, the world had stayed gray, and yet, something inside her pulled her forward, something stronger than shame. When she reached the door, Daniel was already awake, his hands were busy. His table was covered with broken pieces of glass and shards of crystal. He looked up at her and gave a small smile. You came back, Lyra hesitated. Should I not? You should, Daniel said firmly. If we stop after one failure, then nothing is ever built. Every invention I made in my life came after mistakes. His words surprised her. Her people hated failure. To them, a single mistake meant weakness. But this human wore failure like armor. He used it as fuel. Daniel showed her a new frame. Smaller, lighter. The crystals inside shimmered faintly. This one might shift the light differently, he explained. Maybe it will speak to your eyes better. Her hands trembled as she held the device. She placed it on her face. The world blurred, then flickered for one heartbeat. She thought she saw a faint wash of blue, but it was gone in an instant. Only gray remained. Her chest ached. Hope had risen too quickly and then crashed like stone. It doesn't work, she whispered again. Her voice cracked. It will never work? Daniel's expression stayed calm. His eyes thoughtful, he took the frame back and studied it. It almost worked, he said quietly. I saw your eyes react. That means we are close, Lyra shook her head. Close is not enough, you do not understand, Daniel. I have lived my whole life in this darkness to hope and lose. It hurts more than to never hope at all. Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. I do understand, Lyra. Humans know this pain too, but if you close your heart to hope, you will never find the light, his words struck her. She wanted to believe, but fear pressed hard on her chest. Outside, laughter echoed. A group of alien children passed the workshop. Peeking inside, look at her. One shouted, the broken one thinks the human can fix her. Another sneered, even humans cannot make colors for the useless. Clara flinched, her face burned with shame. She wanted to hide. But Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. Leave her be. The children scattered, their laughter fading. Daniel turned back to Lyra, his tone softer. Don't listen. They only fear what they do not understand. Her eyes burned with tears. They are right, she whispered. I am useless. Nothing will change. Daniel leaned closer. No, they are wrong. And I will prove it. He returned to his table, his hands moving quickly. The sound of glass being cut filled the air. Sparks danced, the workshop glowed with strange light. Lyra sat silently watching, her heart torn between despair and the tiny flame of hope he refused to let die. Hours passed, he built, adjusted, broke, and rebuilt, his eyes sharp with focus, his movement steady. At last, he lifted another frame, his face serious. Try again, her hands shook. But she placed the device on her face. This time something shifted. The gray blurred into faint shadows of light. At the edge of her sight, a dull shade. Was it blue? Or only her imagination? Her breath caught, her hands rose to her mouth. I think I saw, but then it vanished. The world sank back into gray. Her tears spilled, she pulled the frame away. It's gone, she whispered, her voice breaking. It was there, but it's gone. Daniel took the frame gently. He did not look angry, only thoughtful. Then it means the answer is close. We just need to find it. Lyra's tears rolled down her cheeks. Why do you care so much? I am nothing to you. Why do you not walk away like the others? Daniel looked at her, his voice low and firm. Because you are not nothing. Every being deserves to see the beauty of the world. And if I can help even one person, then I must. Her chest tightened. She had no words. No one had ever spoken to her like this. That night when she left the workshop, the gray world still pressed on her eyes. But in her heart something had changed. The first failure had cut her deeply, but it had also shown her something new. This human would not abandon her. Not after one mistake, not after 10, and maybe, just maybe. The world of colors was waiting closer than she ever believed. The night was cold, and the city outside had grown quiet. But inside Daniel's workshop, the air burned with heat and sparks. Lyra stood in the doorway, her hands pressed against the frame. She had come again even after the second failure. Even after her tears, Daniel was bent over his table. His face glowed in the firelight of his machines. He worked as if time itself was chasing him. His hands never slowed. Every piece of crystal, every shard of glass, he tested, turned, and set aside. Lyra stepped inside, her voice soft. You have not slept? Daniel glanced up, his eyes tired but sharp. No, not until I find the right way. Some answers do not wait for morning. She hesitated. Why do you work so hard for me? You do not even know me. Daniel set down his tools and looked at her. Because your pain is real and because no one else tried. His words were simple, but they struck her heart like lightning. For a long moment, she only watched him. His hands stained with dust, his arms tense with effort. He was different from her people, they gave up quickly. But this human, he fought against failure as if it was only another enemy to defeat. Slowly, she moved closer. Can I help? Daniel looked surprised, but then he smiled. Yes, you can. Hold this. He handed her a thin rod of metal glowing faintly at one end. Steady, don't let it drop. Her fingers shook. But she gripped it tightly. She had never been trusted with work before. Her people only told her to stay aside. Useless, but here Daniel gave her a place beside him. Hours passed. She held tools, she fetched crystals. Sometimes he guided her hands, showing her how to polish the edges, how to clean the glass. The work was hard, her arms grew sore. But for the first time in her life, she felt needed. At one point, Daniel leaned back and rubbed his eyes. "You learn fast," he said. "Most apprentices take weeks to understand this." Her heart fluttered. She lowered her gaze, hiding the small smile that threatened her lips. "I only do what you show me." "No," Daniel said firmly. "You see patterns, you understand quickly. That is not me. That is you." The words burned warm inside her. She was not useless, not broken, at least not to him. As the night stretched on, the workshop filled with the sound of grinding, cutting, and sparks. Outside, the city slept, but inside, two figures worked side by side. Sometimes Daniel spoke about his world. On Earth, long ago, humans were almost blind too. Many could not see clearly, so we built lenses. We refused to accept darkness. "That is our nature," Lyra listened with wide eyes. "Your people, they fought against blindness?" "Yes," he said. "And every time we failed, we tried again."
"That is how we survive." Her heart grew heavy with awe.
If humans had fought their own limits, maybe he truly could help her fight hers. Near dawn, Daniel finally held up a new frame. This one was different, lighter, the crystals glowing faintly as if they carried hidden fire. He set it on the table and leaned back, his face pale with exhaustion. Lyra stepped closer, her chest tight. "Is this the one?" "Maybe," Daniel said softly. "It has a chance, but I will not know until you try." Her hands trembled as she lifted the frame. She stared at it for a long time, afraid. What if it failed again? What if hope broke once more? Daniel's voice was steady. "Do not fear failure. Every step is progress." She nodded slowly and placed the frame on her face. The world shimmered for a heartbeat, the gray bent and twisted. Something faint flickered before her eyes, a spark of color. Was it real, or only a trick of her mind? Her lips parted, "I think," but the light vanished. The gray rushed back, her heart sank, tears filled her eyes. She pulled the frame off and shook her head. "It is gone again." Daniel did not look defeated. He leaned forward, studying the frame. "Closer," he whispered. "Much closer. We are almost there." Lyra wiped her tears, her voice cracked. "You do not stop. Even when I want to." Daniel's gaze met hers, steady and calm. "Because I promised myself never to stop until I succeed?" She looked at him, her chest heavy with emotions she could not name. This human, tired and sleepless, still fought for her sight when even she no longer believed. As the first light of morning crept through the window, Lyra realized something. Even if the world was still gray, she was no longer alone in it. The sun was rising, painting the city with pale light, though for Lyra it was still only shades of gray. Her eyes stung from lack of sleep, but she could not leave the workshop. She had stayed with Daniel through the long night, watching him fight against failure. Daniel rubbed his hands together and took a deep breath. His table was scattered with broken lenses and shards of crystal. Yet in the middle lay something new, a frame of silver metal, delicate and strong. Its lenses shimmered faintly, glowing like drops of frozen light. "This," Daniel whispered, "is different. I think I found the right alignment. The crystals are tuned to bend the spectrum of light into what your eyes can read." Lyra did not understand his words, but his voice carried weight. It was the sound of a man who had reached the edge of discovery. Her chest tightened, hope burned, but fear pressed harder. What if it failed again? What if this was only another heartbreak? Daniel looked at her gently. "Lyra, do you trust me?" Her lips trembled. She wanted to say no. She wanted to protect her heart from more pain. But the truth rose before she could stop it. "Yes," she whispered. "I trust you." Daniel's tired smile returned. "Then let's give the world a chance." With shaking hands, she lifted the frame. The metal was warm from his touch. The crystals sparkled faintly as if alive. She placed it against her face. The world flickered. The gray shifted, bent, and broke apart. Her breath caught. For a moment she thought it was another trick. But then, a wave of blue filled her eyes. Deep and endless, the sky above her was no longer empty gray. It stretched wide, glowing, alive. Her lips parted in shock. It's blue," she whispered. The word tasted strange on her tongue. She looked down. The grass beneath her feet was not dull anymore. It was alive with green, sharp and bright. Each blade carried a color she had never known. She gasped, falling to her knees. Her fingers touched the ground, trembling. "It's alive. It's alive with green." Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to close her eyes. She turned, and her gaze fell on a flower sitting in a pot near the window. Before it had been only a dull shape. Now it exploded with red, fierce, and burning like fire. She covered her mouth with her hand. Choking on sobs, "Red," she whispered. "This is red?" Daniel nodded softly, watching her with quiet pride. Her tears spilled freely now, running down her face. "It's beautiful. It's more than beautiful. It hurts to look. But I cannot stop. I cannot stop." She looked everywhere, at the silver tools, the golden fire of the sparks, the brown wood of the table. Every object shouted a new truth. Every shape held a hidden soul she had never known. Her people had described colors before, but their words had been empty. Now for the first time she understood. Her sobs turned into laughter and back into sobs again. Her whole body shook. She buried her face in her hands. "All my life, I thought I was broken, and now, I see. I truly see." Daniel stepped closer and rested a gentle hand on her shoulder. "The world always had color, Lyra. It was waiting for you. All it needed was the right key." She looked up at him through her tears, her eyes wide with wonder. "You gave me this, you gave me the world." But outside the workshop, voices were rising. People had gathered, drawn by her cries of joy. They peered inside, their eyes narrowing in disbelief. "What is happening?" One muttered, "She's crying like a fool." Another pointed, "Look at her eyes. She sees something. She sees what she could not before." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some were curious, some jealous, some angry. One shouted, "What trick has the human done? This cannot be real." Lyra froze, the joy in her chest shaken by fear. But Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady and strong. "It is no trick. It is truth. For the first time in her life, she sees the colors you take for granted." The crowd fell silent, their eyes wide, disbelief battling against the sight before them. Lyra wiped her tears, standing tall though her knees trembled. She looked at the flowers again, at the grass, at the blue sky. Her voice broke but carried strength. "I see. I truly see. And no one can take this from me." The crowd gasped. Some faces showed awe, others envy. Some whispered angrily, others quietly bowed their heads. But Daniel only looked at her, pride shining in his tired eyes. "The gift of color is yours now, Lyra. Hold it close, for it is more than vision. It is freedom." And as the sun climbed higher, bathing the city in gold, Lyra's world was no longer gray. It was alive, burning, endless, and her tears were no longer from pain, but from the beauty she had finally been given. The news spread faster than fire. By morning, half the city had heard the whispers. The broken girl sees colors. Some laughed, calling it madness. Others hurried to Daniel's workshop to see for themselves. Lyra stood at the center of it all, her new spectacles pressed against her face. Her chest still trembled from the joy of seeing blue and green for the first time. But now dozens of eyes stared at her, some wide with wonder, some narrow with suspicion. An elder of the village stepped forward, his voice sharp. "What trick is this, girl? All your life you were blind. How can a single human change what nature decided?" Lyra clutched the frame of her spectacles tightly. Fear tugged at her heart, but the colors around her gave her strength. She looked at the elder's robe. Before it had been dull gray, but now she saw deep purple woven with golden thread. It was so beautiful that her lips parted in awe. "It is not a trick," she whispered. "It is real. I see you. I see your robe. It shines with colors I never knew." Gasps echoed through the crowd. The elder frowned, his hand trembling as he touched his garment. "She should not know that," he muttered. "Not unless—" His words trailed off, doubt flickering in his eyes. A woman pushed forward, anger flashing across her face. "This is dangerous. If a human can change one of us, what else will he change? He is not of our kind, he meddles with things beyond his place." Murmurs of agreement rose. Others nodded, their fear stronger than their wonder. Daniel stepped forward then, his tired face calm. His voice carried firm authority. "I did not change her nature, I only gave her the chance to see what was always there. The world had colors waiting. I only built the bridge." The crowd fell into uneasy silence. Some whispered, "A bridge." Some muttered, "A weapon." Lyra turned, her eyes brimming with tears. "Please," she said softly. "All my life I was empty. I thought I was broken. But now I see. And it is not just light. It is life. Please do not take this from me." For a moment the crowd wavered. Some softened at her trembling voice. Others hardened with jealousy. One young man shouted from the back, "Why her? Why the useless girl? Why did the human not choose one of us?" The words cut Lyra, but Daniel answered firmly, "Because she was brave enough to ask." The young man's face twisted. "Brave? She begged. She is weak." "No," Daniel's voice thundered. "She had courage when all of you mocked her. That is not weakness. That is strength greater than yours." The crowd stirred, whispers turning to arguments. Some pointed at Lyra. "She is chosen." Others sneered, "She is cursed with human tricks." And then it happened. An older child, jealous and angry, darted forward, snatching the spectacles from Lyra's face. "No!" she cried, reaching out. The sudden rush of gray returned. The world turned dull again, her knees buckled, tears filled her eyes. "Give them back." The boy laughed cruelly, holding them high. "Look at her now. Helpless again, just like before." The crowd shouted, half cheering him, half demanding he return them. The tension swelled like a storm ready to break. Daniel stepped forward, his eyes burning, his voice sharp as steel. "Return them now." But before the boy could answer, an elder grabbed his arm. Snatching the spectacles, he turned them over in his hand, studying the shining lenses. His voice trembled. "This is powerful, too powerful to belong to a single girl." Fear filled Lyra's chest. She fell to her knees, her hands clutching empty air. "Please, I cannot lose them. Not after I've seen. Not after I know what I've missed." Her words broke the crowd's noise for a moment. The silence was thick, her sobs heavy. Daniel's voice cut through it, calm but dangerous. "They are hers. I built them for her, no one else. If you take them, you are not protecting your people. You are only stealing her freedom." The elder hesitated, torn between fear and reason. The crowd leaned closer, whispers echoing like thunder. Finally, the elder thrust the spectacles back into Lyra's hands. "Keep them," he said harshly. "But do not forget, the eyes of the city are upon you. If this human's gift brings harm, it will be your burden." Lyra clutched the frame against her chest. Relief flooding through her, she placed them back on her face and the world burst alive again. Blue, green, red, gold. Colors she could not bear to lose. Her tears sparkled as she whispered, "Thank you." Daniel placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his voice low. "No one will take them from you again. Not while I stand." The crowd slowly broke apart, half in fear, half in awe. But the story of the girl who saw colors for the first time was already spreading beyond the city walls, and in the shadows, others whispered not with wonder but with greed. Night returned, but Lyra could not sleep. The colors still danced before her eyes, every shade brighter than dreams. Yet fear pressed on her chest. The crowd's angry voices echoed in her mind. Some had been amazed, but many had been jealous, and jealousy was more dangerous than blindness. Daniel worked quietly at his bench, repairing the scratches left on the lenses when they were stolen. His voice was calm, but his shoulders were tense. "They will try again," he said at last. "Some people fear change. Others want to control it." Lyra sat close, hugging her knees. "If they take these from me, Daniel, I will fall back into gray. I cannot survive that again." Her voice cracked with terror. Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. "They cannot take what is already inside you, Lyra. You saw colors once. You will carry that memory forever." She shook her head. "Memory is not enough. I need to see. I need to live in this light." Before he could answer, a sharp sound struck the door. A crash, then another. Voices shouted outside, "Open! The council demands the human's device." Lyra's heart froze. She clutched the spectacles tighter. Daniel moved in front of her, his body blocking the door. His voice was iron. "You will not touch her." The door burst open. Several figures stormed in, elders, guards, and angry citizens. Their eyes gleamed with greed and fear. "This tool is dangerous," one elder snapped, pointing at the lenses. "If one girl can see what she should not, what will stop others from demanding the same?" "The balance of our people will break," another shouted. "Give it to us! We will control it." Lyra trembled, pressing against the wall. The gray world flashed in her mind, threatening to return. She whispered, "No, please, don't." Daniel raised his hand, his voice sharp. "It is not yours, it is hers. You call it dangerous because you fear what you don't understand." The crowd pressed closer. Some guards reached for Lyra. Her body shook, fear strangling her voice, but then something inside her shifted. She remembered the first time she saw the blue sky, the green grass, the burning red flower. She remembered how the world had exploded into life. Her tears had been real, her joy undeniable. No one could erase that truth. Her fear turned into fire. She stood, her legs weak but steady. Her voice cracked yet carried power. "Stop!" The crowd froze, stunned by her sudden cry. Lyra stepped forward, clutching the spectacles against her face. The colors glowed around her, filling her with strength. "All my life you called me broken. You mocked me, left me in darkness, but now I see. And I will not go back to gray because of your fear." Her tears streamed, but her voice rose. "You think these lenses are dangerous? They are not. They are hope. They are proof that we are more than our limits. You want to steal them because you do not want change. But I will not let you take the light away from me." The room fell silent. The guards hesitated, some lowered their hands. Shame flickering in their eyes, Daniel's voice followed hers, low but strong. "She has chosen, and her choice is freedom, not fear. If you steal this from her, you do not protect your people. You chain them." The elder's face twisted with anger, but he saw the crowd shifting. Some of the people were nodding, some whispered, "She is right," others murmured, "She speaks with truth." Finally, the elder spat on the ground, his voice bitter. "Keep your cursed human toy, girl, but know this, the world will change now. And not everyone will thank you." The council retreated, dragging the angriest with them. The workshop grew quiet again. Lyra's knees weakened. She collapsed into a chair, clutching her face. "I thought they would take it. I thought I would lose everything." Daniel knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. "You did not lose, you stood. You showed them strength they never expected. That was not my invention, Lyra. That was you." Her chest shook with quiet sobs. But this time they were not of despair. They were of release, of pride, of hope. She looked through the lenses again. The world burned with colors. Blue, green, red, gold. Each shade filled her heart. Stronger now because she had fought for it. She whispered, her voice trembling but full of light. "You gave me more than colors, Daniel. You gave me a reason to live. You gave me courage." Daniel smiled softly, his tired eyes warm. "Then keep it, and never let it go." As dawn touched the city once more, the first rays of sunlight spilled into the workshop. For the first time, Lyra saw them not as pale shadows, but as rivers of gold pouring across the floor, and with tears shining in her eyes. She knew her world would never be gray again.